Welcome back, you guys, to Thriving Loudly. I'm Aisha.
And I'm Trinice.
And today's episode is all about protecting your peace, how we care for our mental health, and find a real life work balance, and give ourselves permission to turn our brains off without guilt.
If you've ever felt overwhelmed, burnt out, or like you're constantly on, this is the one for you.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about therapy, rest, and rituals, and how we've learned to set boundaries in a world that glorifies hustle.
Yes. So light a candle, take a deep breath, and let's dive in. So let's be real. Mental health isn't just about avoiding breakdowns. It's about building routines that keep us grounded every day, because we know that we all need it.
What does mental health look like for you lately?
Oh my gosh. Actually, I'm going through something right now where it's like mental health is just so important. You know, when you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, you're always on. You know, you don't really have a time. You can't take PTO where you can just say, I'm just want to take the week off, you know, and just focus on myself and my mental health. So my mental wellness for me looks like just stopping and taking a break. So whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, you know, where I'm just like, it's just a lot going on, I'll just step away for like 5 minutes. Like if I'm, you know, deep in client work or what have you, and I just feel like, oh my God, I'm just overwhelmed. I'll just stop for a second, take a 5-minute break, woosah, get myself together, and then, you know, I'll get back to it. Mm-hmm. So I've learned like taking mini breaks definitely help with, you know, mental health wellness. Having that morning routine, like I had spoke about before, is very important. Starting your day, you know, pouring into yourself is very important. And then also, you know, at nighttime, when it's time to wrap it up, again, pouring back into yourself as well. You know, eating healthy, working out, are all some of the things that I do to try to keep myself balanced. And then also talking to family and friends and making sure that I'm being surrounded by a community, I think is so important as well. And so all of those things are some of the things that I do to make sure that my mental health is, you know, in check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
How about you?
Yeah, I like what you brought up. I think for me, mental wellness looks like, just wellness in general, just, you know, the working out for me as well. Just eating healthy. I've been practicing again, like I used to be like so dialed in on like my skincare routine and just like those little things. So I've been really dialing back into just overall wellness and just self-care. So just really dialing in on like my skin health and skincare. Mm-hmm. Also just making sure, you know, I'm taking like all my vitamins. I'm getting back onto my vitamin routine. Yeah. And also just making sure I'm like staying hydrated and having enough water, which sometimes I tend to forget sometimes. Like I'll drink all the coffee, tea, matcha, and not really focus on the water. So I think for me, that's been like my focuses, and just also just eating healthy outside of the food content and stuff I do, which, you know, it can take a toll on your body and, you know, just even your mental health a little bit, you know, because there's just like so much types of food you're eating, and, you know, just like I said, just anything you put into your body can, you know, it can affect your health and your mind. And so just making sure just on my off days that I'm eating clean.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Have you ever had a moment where your mental health forced you to pause everything, where you're just like, I gotta stop what I'm doing, I have to take a break because this is just too much?
You know, no, not really. I think I'm just very, I know I'm crazy. So I'm just very resilient. I think that I'm one of those people that tries to push through. I don't really, even when I'm going through certain things, I never fully just pause everything. I still find a way to balance it, and that could be a little toxic in its own way, because I do believe in breaks. I do believe in taking time away. I think I've always figured out a way to make it work. I do feel like when I had like certain things like happening in my family and, during the holidays and stuff like that, like it was hard to fully just kind of walk away from my work because I did have a lot of obligations. And, when you're contracted by brands and businesses and stuff like that, like they have these timelines, they're paying you for your service, and it's hard to, some people, they're very flexible and they're understanding, other people aren't. And so you have to know how to navigate that. So, I think for me, it's never been a full-on pause. It may be just a scale back. Like, okay, like I have all this personal stuff happening. I have to scale back on projects. So whether that is a conversation with the people I'm working with and being like, hey, I have this going on in my family right now, or I'm going through this. I'm going to need to focus only on XYZ right now. And then I can circle back to you in like a couple of weeks. And, I try to find some type of middle ground, I feel like.
Yeah. And I think that is so important. That's one of the things I've had to do as well, because as you spoke about, you still have obligations, you may be going through something personal and you still have to meet these deadlines. But I think it's just important to be honest with people, let them know, hey, I'm going through something. My uncle died last year, and that really just like took a toll on me. Like I was trying to push through, and I just had to be honest with people. Like my favorite uncle just passed, I'm hoping I don't tear up on this. And I was just like, I can't even think straight. Like, I need some days. I just need some time, because powering through this is not going to help me at all. I need to really grieve through this.
Yeah. And you want to be able to give your best work to people and be there 100%. And I think people value that. And I think that's always what I've, told businesses too, when I feel like I need some time away, or I got to scale back, or whatever it is, I let them know transparently, like I can't fully show up 100%, and I'd rather pause this, wrap up maybe some loose ends I have going over here, and then I can give you 100%. Even just with different life events, like, I recently moved, and, I have businesses and brands left and right being like, we need this, and I have this deadline, we want you to do this. And, I just had to be transparent on what I could give them. I mean, moving in itself is a stressful process. It is. It's a lot. Yeah. Like, I hate it. Me too. I hate it with a passion. Yes. It's so much work, and especially it's
moving parts.
All the moving parts, all the things you have to do when you move, and it's a lot. And we live in Arizona, it's 110 plus, and even though we had movers, I mean, there were some things we still had to like move on our own, and it's hot, and it's just again, it's like finding that balance. And I think being transparent with people you're working with, and people in your life is the best thing to do.
I agree with that 100%. And you do a great job of doing that, of just saying, hey, this is what I have going on, and just, we gotta scale back a little bit. Yeah. So, like, you have taught me, like, this is important. Like, you do. Because otherwise, you're gonna drive yourself crazy trying to do it all when you know that this is not possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
What tools or practices have helped you, manage anxiety, overwhelm, or burnout?
Yeah, I would just say, I think to me, it's kind of realistically seeing what I have going on in my business and knowing how much can I give certain people, and that's hard because I'm still trying to navigate that, and I think I'm also in this very rookie era of my business, especially being full-time. Like when I had my job, like, this was just a fun side thing, whatever. There was no risk involved, it wasn't a gamble. And so now that this is my livelihood and it's my full-time gig, I have to kind of really realize, like, how much can I give each person, each business, the people I'm working with, and setting kind of boundaries and expectations. Even when it comes to collaborations, like if I'm doing trade work with local businesses, I think a lot of people out there think that when I work at like a lot of these restaurants pay me, a lot of that work is free. Like I am not getting paid Arizona Places as a whole isn't really something that I'm getting a ton of money from. You know, a lot of the work I do for local businesses is trade. You know, these are small businesses. They don't have these large budgets. I know we see these 1% of influencers saying they got paid $50,000 for a brand deal, which is true. That is happening out there. But when you're working with small businesses, they're not paying creators. You know, we're coming in and we're taking the time out of our day because we believe in what they're doing, and you know, we want to highlight these businesses. And I always am transparent when I work with local businesses and being like, hey, you know, love to come in and do this, do that, but I just to be transparent, because this is a full-time thing for me, you know, I just, you know, it's going to maybe be a 1 to 2 week turnaround for the video, or, you know, something like that, because I do get prioritized paid work through my talent agency. And so I have to make room for that type of work too, because when people are paying you and clients are paying you a lot of money, you do have to prioritize that work first. Right. And so I just try to like get a very good big scope of my business and seeing what's realistic and learning how to say no more, which I have been, but I'm just it still feels like there's so much going on. But I feel like I've had boundaries with that too, saying no a lot more.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, I think that's so important. Yeah, saying no more and just managing expectations, which is what you just spoke about. I think that is so important. Just be transparent and honest with people, manage expectations. That'll help so much with anxiety, the overwhelm, the burnout. Because when you're trying to juggle and do so many things and you're not really managing the expectations, then that's how you get anxiety. That's how you burn out, because you're trying to do so much when you know really you don't have the time to do it. You know, so I think that is so important, and that's something that I'm still, you know, learning again, because it goes back to people pleasing, where it's like yeah, and then it's like no. So let's scale it back. No, not right now, you know, maybe next month. And like I said, you do a great job with that, like maybe in July, because you know I have XYZ going on. You know, I know realistically I cannot do that right now. And so I think that is the most important thing, is just saying no and managing expectations and being honest with people.
Yep, I love that.
Yeah.
How do you personally check in with yourself when you know when you're not okay?
Well, I start to know when I'm not okay when I can't think clearly. And so if it gets to a point where it's just like I'm overwhelmed, I can't even think, can't even process.
Yeah.
What the heck is going on, that I know, okay, you need to take a pause. You need to step back for a second and reevaluate what's really going on. And so that's how I check on myself, because for the most part, I'm pretty clear. But when confusion starts setting in and it's like, okay, I'm trying to do this, I'm like, okay, Trinice, stop for a second. Let's reprioritize what's important, what's the priority, and then go from there. Can this wait till tomorrow? You know, and so that's how I check in with myself.
Yeah, I think those are really good points. I like the check-in with yourself, and then also knowing what to prioritize, because I feel like I struggle with this a lot too. I want to try to like do so many things, but I also have to think about like, okay, what is a priority in my business? Like, as much as I want to do these little things and I want to support, I want to do this, I want to do that, is this realistic for me right now? Is this a priority, or is these other things a priority because, you know, maybe this business, you know, I signed a contract with and they are paying me, you know, it's like you have to kind of balance a little bit of both and understand, you know, what are priorities. And I'm even navigating that now as someone who's been a full-time creator for the last couple of years, but now has to think about, okay, like, yes, I love the brand deals, but there's a lot of ebbs and flows. And as much as I want to do all the little things and all the free stuff and all the trade stuff, is that going to be sustainable for me long term? And what now do I need to do to prioritize scaling my business? And so, you know, I'm also navigating that, because I can't just live off of brand deals, because they come and they go. There's some great months, then there's not so great months, and then what's coming in between that. And I think, you know, I've, you know, gone over the last year really trying to figure out, like, different things. And, Trinice is really great with that, and she's helped me, on the business side on like, getting an ebook started, like looking into other streams of income, even my agency is like, okay, like you really need to double down on like affiliate, like Amazon, and, LTK, these are other income streams that you should be prioritizing, building. Coaching too. We talked about that. And, I have like a coaching that I do for, influencers, and doubling down on that. And I can't always do free over here if I want to sustain, my business as a creator. So, it's definitely a pivot, and I'm navigating that right now.
Yeah, kind of to piggyback off of that, one thing I've learned too when I first started this executive assistant business, I was just taking on clients, but I realized like some of these clients are out of scope. They're not even the type of clients that I truly want to work with. They don't resonate with me, and learning how to say no, just because they're a business doesn't mean that they're necessarily a fit for my business.
Yeah.
And just kind of reassessing. And once I've done that, I feel so much better. I feel like, okay, this is in alignment. These are the people that I want to work with. This is what makes me happy. Sometimes you do just want to take it all like, oh yeah, more money, but that's not always the case in the long run. You really have to reevaluate. Is this really in alignment with your business?
Yeah.
Does this make sense, like you said, in the long run? Or is this client going to be here today and gone tomorrow, and now you could have had a different client, that makes more sense for you? So, yeah.
No, I agree with that. I think those are really, really great points. What would you say to someone who feels guilty for needing mental space?
I don't think you should ever feel guilty for needing mental space. I think that we are in this hustle and bustle culture, which people are now realizing. I think we're starting to wake up as a society that we cannot just keep grinding and hustling, 24/7, 7 days a week, and never taking the space or never taking, time to mentally check in with yourself. I think that we are always allowed to mentally check in with ourselves. If you're not doing okay, address it. Do something about it. Talk to somebody about it. Use your tools. But never just say, I'm just going to keep grinding no matter how I feel.
Yeah.
Because that is how depression sets in. That's how anxiety, creep up on you. That's how all these things start to happen. And so I think it's so important, even if it's 5 minutes. I learned that when I was working in corporate America, and I was a branch manager. They would always tell us, like, if you need to just, walk away for 5 minutes because you're just so stressed out, we'd rather you do that than try to, work through all this stuff knowing that you're overwhelmed. They were very big on work-life balance.
That's good.
So, yeah.
That's so good.
And so I was able to implement those tools into now what I do now. And so I'm like, if I'm not doing okay, if I got a personal issue, let me take a breather, step away for a second, and then let me come on, because I'm not gonna help you. I'm not gonna help myself if I'm not really in a good headspace, and I know that I'm not, and I'm trying to push through, because you're not gonna give your best work. You're not gonna be there. You're gonna be mentally checked out. Yeah. I know it's not always possible, but when you can, I do recommend just 5 minutes. That makes a difference.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think you touching on not feeling guilty for taking mental space is such a good point. I think that I agree. You shouldn't feel guilty for that. I think if you need a moment, you need a moment. And honestly, learning to name what I'm feeling has been a game changer. Sometimes we're not lazy. We are just emotionally exhausted.
Yes.
And, this kind of bounces into our next point. And let's talk about work-life balance. And we've both been in seasons of overworking, overextending, and being emotionally unavailable to ourselves.
How have you been creating boundaries between work and life lately?
Oh, yeah. I think for me, just kind of going back to learning how to say no more and learning what is serving me for like my bigger purpose and goals. I think especially when you're starting something out, and I think this is what a lot of creators really tend to do, is they get so excited and they say yes to everything. Everything under the sun. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like, yes, because you're just so excited when a business or a brand reaches out to you and you want to seize the day. You want to take on that opportunity. And I feel like I was heavily in that season for a very long time. And, I'm slowly getting out of that. I was always known in the industry as a creator who was everywhere. They're like, oh, you're always on the go. You're at everything. You're doing this. And I mean, a lot of creators would tell me that. They're like, wow, that's impressive, because I was even doing that with a full-time job. I was everywhere. I was yes, because I think I was just in a season where I'm like, I want the opportunity. I want to get myself out there.
Yeah.
I want to network. I want to grow my account. I want to take on those things. And especially because when I was working, I wasn't making a lot of money, so like I couldn't afford to go to all these restaurants all the time. So if there was an opportunity to try something out for free, I took it. You know, now I'm getting into the season where I've been established in this industry, and I'm realizing that like it's not sustainable for me to take on everything and say yes to everything, even though I know there's probably PR agencies and businesses who are just like, oh wow, like Aisha doesn't go to probably our events as much anymore, because I'm like, to me, like being out 7 days a week, because if I could be out 7 days a week filming every single day. Yeah. And that's just not sustainable for like mentally, you're burning out, physically, like I can't eat like that every single day. That's just, it takes a toll on the body. And it's just, I'm realizing it's not sustainable for growth, because if I'm doing all of these things, you know, and I'm just going to these events, you know, getting the free
distraction.
Yeah, it really is.
It's a distraction.
I'm not really working towards much else. Kind of staying the same. I'm just kind of like just going with the flow, but I'm not reaching that next level height. So I've just been saying no a lot more, and it's hard. And it's hard having those conversations to where I'm like, you know, this isn't a fit for me. I'm so sorry, but you know, I wish you guys the best of luck. It's hard.
Yeah, I think I would have to say the same thing too. Learning how to say no. Creating those boundaries, because the more you say no and the more you make time for yourself, the better you can balance your life. I was the same too, saying yes to everything, and I realized that that's not going to move the needle. You know, it is a distraction. You know, you can't be in the vision of your business. You can't strategically think when you're trying to do all these different things. You know, it's like you got to get real with what you want for your life, for your business, and work on that, you know. And you need that extra mental time to be able to think. You know, if you're constantly working 5 days a week, you know, from sun up to sundown, or 7 days a week from sun up to sundown, you just don't have any white space to create or do anything that you want to do. And so, yeah, for me, it's learning how to say no, to set those, to have those boundaries, to be able to have a work-life balance. Because we're telling you, you know, being an entrepreneur, it can, if you let it suck you in, it will. If you're reactive to this, you won't have a life, you know. And we're not trying to scare anybody or anything like that, but that's just the reality of it, because you're constantly working, and you have to create those boundaries for yourself if you want to live a balanced life, because it's not going to come to you.
I agree with that. I think, you know, I think that's a good point. I think, you know, more people need to be open about a lot of the struggles of being an entrepreneur, because I think a lot of people, it's very glamorized on social media. You know, and I think there is some pros and there's some cons, right? You know, I'm very much not, you know, I would never tell people, I mean, maybe a few years ago I would say, yeah, quit your job, be an influencer, woohoo, you know, which I think you should, like, if you want to chase that dream, absolutely. But I wouldn't just say, hey, drop your life and just do this without having some type of solid plan in place, and realizing, you know, there has to be a little bit of strategy involved to keep yourself afloat during the months where maybe you're not making the big bucks, you know, in your business, whether that's, you know, Trinisa's business, or, you know, even in being a creator. You know, there's the ebbs and the flows. And I think, you know, it's important to really have a plan when you get into this, because you don't want to hate your decision or regret it. You want to be like, I made the best decision, and understand there's going to be, you know, some highs and some low points in your business, and learning how to push through that. But I want to ask you, have you experienced burnout, and what did that teach you in a sense?
Yeah, I've experienced, I think I'm kind of going through burnout right now. To be quite honest, things have just changed for me. You know, my business is changing, I'm changing, and I'm trying to figure out how am I pivoting? You know, like what is next for me for this to continue to be sustainable and for me to take it to the next level and grow it.
Yeah.
So yeah, yes, I have experienced, and I think I'm experiencing it now. But again, it's just taking those mental breaks, you know, doing what you can, getting back into the things that you enjoy. That's why I like having my morning routine, because that really grounds me and helps me to start the day. Learning how to say no so that you can free up time so you can think about, okay, well, what's next, or, you know, how do you want to grow this business, or what direction you want to go in your business, and things like that. And getting rest. Sleep is so important. Rest, getting off social media. The reels are just getting to me. Mm-hmm. I'm like liking every reel. I'm looking at all the videos, like,
so bad,
laughing, joking. You know, this is so funny. But getting off of social media, getting off the reels, getting some sleep. You know, spending time with you. Self-care. I love self-care. Like you were saying, you know, I'm a skincare fanatic. Mm-hmm. Love skincare. Love makeup. Love doing my hair. Love doing hair masks. Whatever it may be. Those are the things that I found to help get me out of the burnout, you know, and visiting family, going back home and seeing my family, which I'll be doing next month, is really grounded for me too, and kind of like my reset. So those are some things that I do.
I love that. Yeah.
You?
Oh yeah. I feel like I am burnt out every 5 to 7 business days. Like, I think it's tough because as a creator, I feel like, you know, I love what I do. I truly do. You know, I've been doing this for so long, and I got into this because I just genuinely loved to create. But I will say, now that it has become a job, I feel like I'm trying to figure out where's the off button. Yeah. And I think with content creation, trends change, things move so fast, and you have to continue to stay relevant. You've got to pump out the videos. It's like, it's hard for me to like sit and be like, I need to take like a month off, you know, to reset the mind. But I feel like how I failed was I didn't establish systems to allow me to take time away. And that's something I'm learning in my business. Yeah. You know, I think that I've been riding this wave of short form content creation, doing all the reels, popping out the TikToks, boom, 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 boom. And I think short form content is harder to take time away from versus maybe if you're like a YouTuber and you have longer form content out there, because at least on those platforms, or you have longer form content, your videos can really truly monetize at a better and longer level versus short form videos. I feel like you got to kind of keep pumping them out to stay relevant, because people easily forget with short form content. And so I think that for me, it's just learning more about, you know, again, saying no, and learning to establish systems to allow me to take time off, you know. And I think that's something that I'm trying to work towards, to where I can take a week off and not really feel guilty. And, you know, again, I didn't really establish that early on in my business. I feel like I really did some of the right things, saved my money, like made sure I had 6 months of savings, and made sure I had like that in place, but I didn't really plan for the future of like, well, I'm riding this content wave and the brand deal wave, but I have nothing else.
How do we systemize it?
How do I systemize it and scale it beyond brand deals? I didn't do that. And like, that's something I would definitely preach to creators out there that want to quit their job and do this full time. Have multiple streams of income, because you don't want to be in a position where you're like, oh crap, I really need multiple streams of income, because you really truly don't know when that next deal's coming in, you know? So yeah, that's kind of what I would say about it.
Yes, having systems is so important. I preach about that. That's what I do in my business, is set up systems for businesses, because you want your business to be running on autopilot, so you can't take a vacation like, you know, Aisha spoke about. It's just it's important.
At Industrious, we have found our perfect creative headquarters. We've been using their podcast studio at their Kierland Commons location in North Scottsdale. They offer day passes, private offices, and vibrant co-working lounges and wellness rooms. The podcast studio is bookable on demand and has comfy seating and hourly rates. It's our space to think, speak, record, and connect. Use our code Thriving20 to check out Industrious, and thank you all for supporting us.
So what do you do when people don't respect your boundaries?
Oh.
So you put boundaries in place and they still walk all over it like they didn't hear what you said.
Oh my gosh. I feel like on a business standpoint, if someone's not respecting my boundaries and I've kind of maybe voiced that, hey, this is where I'm at, I can't maybe take this on, or I can't do this, or hey, if you want me to do this, it's going to be X amount of money. Like if I'm going to take this on out of my bandwidth,
Right.
I just come to the conclusion maybe this isn't a business or a place I need to associate myself with. You know, if this is how they're reacting to me and they're kind of stepping over my boundaries, what would that look like after I sign the contract, and like other things that kind of pop into place and fall in. And when I see those red flags, I, kindly just be like, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to kindly pass on this opportunity. I have all these things happening. I can't take this on. So if people and businesses I'm associating myself with don't respect my boundaries after I voiced what I could do for them, then it's not the right fit for me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that too. It's the same thing for me. If early on you see, like maybe even in a discovery call for my case, and we could be having a conversation, and if they seem like they're pushing the boundaries or they're giving me a hard time, to me those are some red flags. If you're doing that this early on in the process, you're going to be doing that after we sign a contract, and so this is probably not a good fit for me. So I think it's important just to kind of pick up on those red flags beforehand. Because oftentimes when somebody is showing you their true colors, it's probably going to be like that. It's probably not going to get any better. So that's what I would recommend is, being aware of those red flags. And if somebody is giving you too much pushback, it's probably not going to be a good fit. Because it should flow. It should be easy. It shouldn't be so much resistance. And when there's a lot of resistance, it's oftentimes not good for you.
I agree with that. How do you rebuild balance when everything feels like so chaotic?
For me, it's a level set, getting back to the basics. So, for instance, if it's a busy season for me and, I have a lot of client work going on, I'm trying to balance this, I'm trying to balance that, I'll get back to the basics. Like, well, what did you do when you first started this business? What are some things that you did in the beginning that helped you through this? I like to look at that. Like, okay, let's go back to the schedule. Are you on your schedule? No, you're not on your schedule. Now you're being reactive, and you're doing. You set yourself up. You set yourself up for a reason. So let's go back and look at what we originally put in place, so that it's not so chaotic. And so that's one of the biggest things that I do. Yeah, I'm like, am I overstepping my boundaries that I set for myself?
I really like that. I know for myself, it's just going back to what's a priority and what isn't. And, I sometimes feel bad about having to maybe cancel certain things, or maybe I did agree to something like loosely with a business, especially locally. There's businesses that will invite me out, and sometimes I'll say yes, and then other things maybe pop up, or I just feel super overwhelmed and I have to cancel. But I feel like I have to, if it's going to protect my peace, if it's going to help me maybe get other things that are a bigger priority done. And I just have to look at the week and say, okay, I have these 2 deadlines with paid, partners. I for sure have to get that done. But then I also have these other things that I could do, but maybe they're not so much a priority. Maybe I can schedule this for next month and come in, especially with a lot of the restaurants. I could always come in. I can always re-email them at any point and be like, hey, I actually have free time. Would love to take this on. And so it's just getting back to what's a priority and focusing and honing in on those things. I feel like helps with it not getting too crazy and chaotic.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I had to stop glamorizing being booked and busy and start glorifying being balanced and blessed. And that is like a true story. Because when you become an entrepreneur, you're like, yeah, I'm booked and busy. Yeah. But getting booked and busy is not always so fun.
Oh, I feel that. I feel that there comes a point where it's like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
I gotta simmer down. Take it down a notch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into something we don't talk about enough, which is turning your brain off.
How do you fully unplug and get out of go mode?
Oh my gosh. Again, it goes back to setting those boundaries.
Yeah.
It's like, so for me, I like to kind of power down. Like, I would say after 6. I try to do 5, but that's not always reality. So I'd say after 6, I'm like, okay, put the work away. Like, just this is Trini's time, you know, and whatever that looks like, whether that's cooking, whether that's putting on one of my favorite shows that I watch, whatever it is. But that's like me time, and so that's how I try to power down or call my family or whatever. How about for you?
Geez.
I know it's a little different.
Oh my gosh. I would say for me, this is a work in progress. I think most creators will tell you that it is very, very hard to fully unplug. And it seems like, you know, I think the longer you're in this industry, I think it starts to get easier for you to like have better boundaries with that. But I think when you're in growth mode as a content creator and you're really trying to build your personal brand and your business, it kind of feels like you gotta keep that light on. You gotta keep going. And I think for me though, I try to kind of start getting off of social media around like 8 or 9 o'clock, you know, or if I am on social media, I try not to like make it so work focused, so I won't maybe respond to comments at that point or DMs or emails. But every day is different depending on what I got going on, because I mean, I very well could have a day where I'm at an event and I'm kind of filming and I'm doing that. So every day is different because my schedule changes all the time. But I just try to find time an hour or two before I go to bed to just like not make the phone work related. And if I want to enjoy a YouTube video or my TikTok scrolling time, fine, cool, have the fun, but try not to make it work related, just so I feel less like, oh my gosh, I gotta do this, gotta do that. I try to. You know, again, it's hard when you feel like your phone is your job and it's like 24/7, but I do feel like it's important to have that kind of separation.
I agree. What do you do for rest that isn't tied to productivity?
That's a good question. I think just enjoying time with friends, enjoying time, you know, with my boyfriend, or just going to the gym, doing like working out. You know, I try to. I think, again, it's very much a work in progress, but I think just finding stuff to where I always don't have to film, because I feel like as a creator, you feel like you have to capture every moment. Like, oh, I'm going to this place, or I'm going out with friends. Let me take some clips and post some stories. And I've been trying to be better about not everything needs to be an Instagram post or a TikTok or a story. Like, I can just enjoy this moment with my family or enjoy this moment with my friends or my boyfriend or whoever, and I don't have to post about it. And so I feel like that has helped me a lot too.
Yeah. For me, it goes back to skincare, doing my self-care stuff. So like on the weekends, I love to go to the gym. I love to do my body pump class that I go to on Saturdays. And then I'll go to the sauna. On Sundays, I'll do my whole skincare routine. You know, I love doing that. I'll wash my hair and stuff like that. So those are some things, and I'll clean up, go to the grocery store. Those are the things that I enjoy that kind of helps me decompress. And then I'll call my mom, because she loves to call me on the weekends, and my dad, and just go down the list.
Yeah, I love that.
And so that's how I decompress and feel like I'm reset for the week. And when I do those things, like when I have time to do it, I'm doing it consistently, is when I feel like I'm much happier.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good. And I do really like that you really take like the weekend and a day just to have like a nice like Sunday reset and just like reset for the week.
Girl, I have to. Otherwise I would be going crazy.
Oh my gosh. I need to be better with that. I feel like I'm just so much like, if something pops off and I'm like, yes, let me go do that. And I'm like, I could have had this full day to like clean, do my laundry, go to the grocery store. Yeah. I feel like I'm just living I'm just day by day. So I really like that. And that's something that I'm really trying to like hone in on now, now that I'm in like a bigger space and I feel like I can kind of start to breathe a little bit more. That's definitely something I'm going to start doing again and getting back into that routine. So I really like that you're doing that.
Yeah, I have to. Do you ever feel guilty doing nothing? And how do you work through that? Kind of like what we just talked about.
Yeah, all the time. I feel like I do get guilty because I'm like, dang, I could do this. I could respond to that. I could get this email done. I could, I just feel like, because we're online, and, with what we do, I always feel like people just have so much access to us. And I've been really just trying to fight through that and just be like, you know what? I don't need to respond to this. This can wait until Monday.
Yeah.
It's not that deep. They're going to get their content.
Yep.
Whatever it is. So I think I've been just trying to be better with that. And just learning how to just turn my brain off and enjoy the moment, live in the moment, be present. I think that's the hardest thing, doing what we do, and especially in the social media world where you feel like you always have to be on 24/7. And I think it's nice to just kind of be present in the moment, enjoying the moment, enjoying a nice meal with your friends and cocktails with your friends, and it not have to be like, oh, I gotta attend to this work thing. Pull my camera out every 2 seconds. It's like, enjoy the moment, enjoy it. So I'm learning that.
Yeah, for me too, I'm learning. Sometimes I do feel guilty, like on a Saturday, like when I'm doing the self-care stuff, I'm like, I could be working on a podcast, I could be doing this, but I'm just like, no, Trinise, because then how are you ever going to have time for yourself?
Yeah.
If you're constantly working, now I'm doing this, and then it's like, I didn't even have a weekend, so that's what I'm like, I just have to do that during the week. Like, we're just going to have to take it piece by piece, and that's just how it is, It's like, we are making progress, we are doing things, but I can't do everything, try to fit in things on the weekend too, because then I have no life at all. And I'm a Libra, we are big on balance, so I have to have that balance. If I'm going too far to the left or too far to the right, that's not a good mix for me.
No, I totally agree. What's your go-to for your mental quiet? Is it TV? Is it walks? Is it journaling? What is it?
It's walks. So I have a great trail by my apartment, which I can't really walk now unless I'm out there like at 6 or 7 in the morning.
Yeah. So
but in the fall and the winter, it is so peaceful because I get out there and I'll just walk. I can walk for like a good hour, and it backs out into the golf course. So it's just beautiful. I love to do that, and I'm just breathing in the air. I'm talking in my head or whatever it is. So that's my go-to. But in times like this, meditation, TV, journaling, just trying to find what I can, indoors, or either it's going to the gym, the sauna. I would say the sauna. The sauna is kind of like the indoor activity that I'm doing now, that I feel like I'm able to get in there and decompress and just relax, and I enjoy doing that.
I like that. Yeah. I know for me, it is, working out, or I like walks too, I kind of wish, in Tucson, when I lived in Tucson, it was so nice because there was just so many more, it was very more accessible to hiking and mountain trails and all of that. I feel like where I live, because I live near downtown Phoenix and stuff like that. I gotta go further out for a lot of that. And it's just I don't know. I mean, I don't mind we're walking on Roosevelt. That area is fine, but I feel like I fully can't tune out walking downtown
because you don't know what you're gonna walk into.
Yeah, you don't.
Literally.
Yeah, it can get a little weird. But I feel like where I lived before, like being on Roosevelt Row, it was generally fine. But yeah, I mean, there are, your psycho, weird, homeless people, and that's just what it is when you live in a city.
Yeah.
So I do miss those aspects about Tucson, because I would literally just tune out, have my headphones on, and just be like walking for, like you said, like an hour. I can walk an hour plus and just be zoned out. I really do love to watch like YouTube. I'm a YouTube girly. I will turn on like a YouTube podcast or something like that and just watch it and just relax and and just kind of enjoy my time doing that.
Yeah, I agree. Why do you think downtime is so critical to thrive in?
Because it's a reset. I think we all need a moment in time to just reset, and it really helps with creativity. I do feel like if I take time away, I feel a little bit more just refreshed, and I feel like my mind is working. I feel more clear when I have a little bit of time away versus when I don't, and I'm always kind of like go. And I think downtime is super important. I think everybody needs it.
I agree. I think it's a non-negotiable. When I have downtime, that's why I said my weekends are like, non-negotiable, because when I have that downtime, I just feel like I come back on Monday so much stronger, just so much clearer than if I didn't have that downtime.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's just important for mental health, mental wellness, just wellness in general, health and in general. So.
Yeah, no, I love that. When we stop moving, we start hearing ourselves again. And that's where the clarity lives. So just keep that in mind, you guys.
Yeah, just like what you were just saying. Yeah, so today we talked about why peace is non-negotiable, how mental health is wealth, and how rest is a radical act of self-care and self-love.
Key takeaway: you deserve rest, you deserve balance, and you don't have to earn your right to feel good.
Start treating your peace like your paycheck. It should be protected, deposited into your daily, and never skipped over. I love that.
Yes, me too. Okay, and we are now going to close out this episode with a little affirmation. I give myself permission to rest, reset, and be still. My peace is sacred. My mental health matters. I am whole, rounded, and free to breathe.
Yep. And so we want to hear from you. We want to hear how you protect your peace, what rituals, routines, or mindset shifts that help you. So make sure you tag us, #ThriveandLoudly on social media.
Please tag us on that, and also subscribe. Share this episode with your burnout bestie and leave a review if it spoke to you.
Next week, we're going to be talking about relationships, how to love yourself while loving someone else. Until then,
keep protecting your peace and keep thriving loudly. We'll see you next week. Bye.